guys, Marmalade here. Thank you so much for checking in for Q&A number 22. It's another beautiful day in Southern California, so let's get right on with it for question number 1. All right, question number 1 is from Jeff Roberts. He asked me, how long did your gas canister last for cooking? Were you able to boil water 10 times, 15, 20 before the canister was empty? So it's also relative to a couple things. Kind of stove you have, because that dictates how long it takes to boil a cup or two of water, and how often you do it, of course. I originally started with, and I've said this before, with maybe doing some hot coffee in the morning and then dinner at night, and I would snack during the day. I phased into not cooking in the mornings anymore. I just cold soaked basically my coffee in the middle of the day, and I phased from oatmeal and things like that to just granola, which was cold. So I saved a lot of gas doing that. So to answer your question, I would say that my stove is pretty efficient and would take about 3 minutes to boil a cup of water, let's say, to hydrate food at night. So I think I would go between 15 and 20 days. So basically 2 to 3 weeks before, with the smallest size gas canister. I'll put a picture of one right here. So to answer your question, I would say 2 to 3 weeks to go through a small gas canister like that, just using it once a day. All right, question number 2 is from Mountain Cat 8. They asked me, when is your current PCT start date? So I meant to tell you guys this last week, but I actually forgot about it. So I said 2 weeks ago that I was going to, on January 14th at 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, California time, we filed for the second round of 2 to get permits. And because I wasn't doing the whole through hike from the start to the end, and I was going at least 500 miles, and also through the Sierras and the John Muir Trail, I needed a permit that I had to go in on the second round, not the first. So it's yet to be approved, but it should be. But what I chose was June 20th, starting at Kennedy Meadows, which is at the end of the desert, starting from the south on the Mexican border, going up to Kennedy Meadows, where I first left off before I flipped. That's at mile marker 702, so 702 miles into the hike, and then starting right into the Sierras and going northbound. And I only need to go to Stevens Pass, because if you guys remember from my videos, I flipped, went up to the Canadian border, and went down about 200 something miles before eventually getting hurt and getting off trail. So I did a total of 903 miles. So basically all I have to do to be done is basically, if I want to finish every mile, is from Canadian Meadows going north about 1,750 miles up to Stevens Pass, which is about the middle of Washington. I did get my permit for all the way to the Canadian border in case I was crazy enough and I wanted to go all the way to the end. I also have a picture and introduce her later, but right now my plan is to hike with somebody I know that's a fellow through hiker and has done many portions of the trail, and her trail name is Lady Bruce, and she's around my age, she's around my experience level and ability level, things like that. So we want to go at least to the Sierras together, if not with other people. So that's our plan. So we both got permits for June 20th heading north. Generally on a normal snow year, the sweet spot to get done with the desert and start the Sierras is June 1st to June 15th. So I gave it 4 or 5 extra days there, but we had a decent to heavy amount of snow early on this year in the Sierras, but right now it's leveling off a little bit, so we'll see where it ends up. And we also don't know, even if there's a lot of snow, sometimes it melts fast too if the heat comes in early this year. So you never know what the snow levels will be like, but we're hoping June 20th is a good time to start, and then just head north. So it'll be pretty hardcore right off the bat, right into the Sierras. So that's the plan. All right, so the next question is from Terry Savini, my friend Terry. Did you start your hike with any pre-existing conditions like arthritis? ? If so, how did you keep the condition from getting worse on the trail? So no, I actually was, compared to how I am now, but I was very healthy and strong. I actually hadn't hiked a ton because, and Terry is getting ready to do her through hike, and she knows how it is. You get closer and closer to date, and there's so much to take care of, especially tying loose ends at home, that I didn't really hike much when I got on trail. I did a couple hikes right before, but I just purposely took it easy and did 15 miles a day for about a week or 2, just to kind of make sure I didn't hike into injuries and that I hiked myself into shape. But I wasn't in bad shape anyway to start. But no, I had no physical injuries. The only thing I got 2 things besides breaking my ankle at the end, but the 2 things were going over Idlewild. I post-holed for 11 straight miles in the snow, and I guess overly strains my lower legs, the muscles, and then on the 7,500 vertical feet down to the desert floor the next day, from Fuller Ridge down to the desert floor near Palm Springs, going on that downhill slope, I got shin splints on my left leg. And if you guys watched my thru hike, anyway, I taped it off and eventually had to rest in Big Bear, and a trail angel let me stay with them for 3 days, and then went on and it went away. So so I had that, which was not a pre-existing one. So I really had no pre-existing ones. The only thing that you will have as a thru hiker, and almost every person has this all the time. Like, I hiked myself in a phenomenal shape. I was doing 20-mile days, waking up without a single sore muscle in my body because I was in such good shape. But your feet always hurt. So I had my sock and shoe situation right, so I got no blisters, but your feet hurt all the time. So one of the things that I'm going to do differently this year, and I'll talk about it in another video, is Darwin does this, but I'm going to do this, is get either a small cork ball, or when I was at REI they were out of them, but he told me just to go to like a kid's store and get a rubberized bouncy ball, just something like maybe the size of a golf ball, and you can rub out your feet and get your soreness out. It's good for muscles on your arms and legs and back and things like that. So I'm going to carry a little ball, either cork or rubber, and that's what I'm going to use to hopefully take care of my feet at night and get them kind of semi-recoup, do them like right when I get in the tent at night, so then they have all that night to kind of rest and recoup, so they're fairly fresh in the morning. So, but no pre-existing issues. All right, my next question is from Diana, also a friend of mine. When you were alone, were you ever lonely or a little fearful? So this is a question I get a lot from my friends in my regular life that don't backpack and don't know this. They're always like, are you going alone when I was doing my thru hike? And aren't you scared of all this stuff out there? And I gotta be honest, when I started 4 years ago and was in a PCT section hiking group in the desert, it did freak me out. I was with other people, but we get out there in the desert and you don't really, even now I don't hear it much, but you hear coyotes sometimes and weird noises out there, and I'm sure there's some mountain lions and things, but so I think my imagination ran wild and I was like a little bit paranoid of it, but I absolutely don't worry about it now. And I've told friends this and people I know that are getting ready to do the trail. You do, I guess, instinctually worry about it, but hopefully you get a tramline and people you hike with so you don't freak out. But I was alone a lot by myself on the trail, and hiking by myself, I loved it. And even when you're with a tramline, like in the desert, I hiked with Adam and Grant, 2 young guys. We were hiking together, but I would say 50 to 75% of the day we were spread out hiking. We just had an agreement on like where we were going to camp or where we want to stop for water. But a lot of times you're hiking by yourself a lot, and that's the beauty of it, is you do want some peace and quiet. So I'm a mix of super sociable and super private. I'm an only child. I like to be, alone a lot. I like my private time, but I like my social time. So the trail seems to be that way. If you have other people you're hiking with, you're alone, then you camp with them, then you start off again, you spread out, and it just goes over and over again. So no, but in the desert I was with somebody most of the time. In the Washington I was basically by myself. I camped by people, but I was basically by myself till I got hurt. So I was never fearful, and one of the things you learn is that it's something I learned to be on trails, to try not to worry about things I can't control. And it's something I've always done my whole life, and that's part of why I went on the trails, to stop worrying about things I can't control. So if I get attacked by an animal at night or something happens like this, I mean, it's obviously scary and could be bad, I guess, but why worry about it? You know what I mean? Like, you can't control it anyway. I learned how to act around the 3 main things that can kill you, which is rattlesnakes, mountain lions, and bears. I know how to act towards them and near them and how you're supposed to act. But beyond that, I can't control them. So why do that to yourself, and why worry? So yeah, if you're fearful at the start of the trail, it's pretty quick on, you won't be fearful after that. Okay, the next question is from Bill H. He said, I noticed in some of your videos on your thru hike, you had some kind of white sheet of something at your tent entrance. Was that Tyvek, and why did you bring it? So that's very observant, by the way. I don't know that I got it in my videos very much, and I meant to grab it to show you guys, but it doesn't really matter. I'll show you a picture in case you don't know what Tyvek is. Here it is. And most people on the trail use it for a ground sheet underneath their tent. It's a synthetic material, it's waterproof, it's relatively light, it's white, which is, and Tyvek is used to wrap in, like, not really in the West Coast here as much, but in the East Coast, it's a weatherproofing, waterproof material, and they're required to, or I don't know if required, but they wrap houses with it to keep the weather out. But it's a light, synthetic, and super strong. So what I did was, I used to use it on one of my older tents for a ground sheet, but I don't need it anymore. So I cut out a piece that's like about 2 by 3, just a square. And what I did is I folded it up. It folds up really small, and I kept it on my through hike. And what I liked about it, especially in the desert when it's sandy and dusty, is I folded it in half and made it like a little doormat for my tent. So like when I get in my tent, I keep my feet on the outside of the tent so I don't bring it in the tent, and I take off my shoes and socks. And when I put my vestibule down, whether it's bad weather or not, I would keep my shoes on the outside to let them air out, and my socks, but they were under the vestibule in case it rained. but that way they were outside of the tent and I wouldn't bring, especially if they're muddy or dirty. The other thing you can use for the Tyvek, which is really neat, I did it for a couple things, is I made one, but I changed my mind before the trail, but you can write in big letters, hiker to town, or PCT hiker to town, and then on the other side, PCT hiker to trail. And you can kind of hold that up when you're hitchhiking, so they know that I just found that it's kind of, the letters are big, but by the time somebody's going fast, they can't read it anyway, so I just kind of know when you're on the trail and you're hitchhiking, they know you're a PCT hiker, so I didn't really need the sign, so I ended up just bringing a blank white sheet. The other thing I used it for that was totally something I didn't think about, but in Washington when it rained all the time and I found out my steel nylon tent soaked up water through, a lot of times when I wake up in the middle of the night, my tent, on the bottom of my tent, through the ground sheet and everything was soaked. But I had this piece of Tyvek, so I didn't use it as a doorstep anymore. I folded it up and put it next to me on my air mattress, because the only way I could stay dry was on an air mattress above the floor that was soaked. But I could put the Tyvek down and put the important things like my electronics or anything that I didn't want to get soaked. So, you know, later in that day when I was hiking, I go out and hang up my stuff and do a yard sale and dry everything out. But that was my way. My Tyvek was really, it ended up being really key to put next to me for things that were important, whether it's clothing, food, or electronics, things like that. So the Tyvek came useful, and it weighs almost nothing for a little sheet like this. So that's what it was. So good question, Bill. So my last question is from Gail Walker. She asked me, did you get any emergency insurance? And I did not. And I labored over this because I was on a tight budget, and I know the insurance is not cheap. And then when I get it, it's almost like the insurance you get for work. It's like it only covers a little bit. It's like, is it really worth hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month when you have very little coverage? Now, I also was naive in that I won't need it. Well, as it turned out, when I broke my ankle, I don't know if the emergency insurance would have helped for this particular thing, but you know, when I finally got off the trail, when I knew my ankle was pretty messed up and I went all the way into Seattle and went to urgent care, I paid cash, but they gave a 55% discount for paying cash, so it was not that bad to get x-rays and find out what's wrong with my ankle. I don't know if my insurance would have covered it or not, but it wasn't that much money, so in the long run it only cost me $200-300 between the x-rays and the doctor visit and then getting a walking boot. So in my case, it was better. I mean, imagine if you have a major emergency, having that insurance really helps. So it's hard for me to answer that. It got a little overwhelming when it came to what it cost and like the different kinds and what it covers and doesn't cover and all that. And I just waited. I decided to go for it, not worry about it. So it's a good question, and I'm not telling anybody you should do what I do, but that's what I did. Okay, guys, those are great questions. Thank you so much. Please, more questions. I've been getting more questions lately, so please ask anything you want to know. No dumb questions, and love to answer them for you. I appreciate the ones we've been getting lately. I just did a day hike, a 7 or 8 mile hike on the PCT yesterday, so you'll see that video pretty soon. I'm going to make some other videos. Give me some, you know, I'm going to continue to do these Q&As every Tuesday, but give me some ideas. I've actually got 3 or 4 ideas for good videos to do, whether it's a product. I'm going to do one on Leave No Trace, but just things like that you think you'd like to know. If you have any ideas for videos you'd like to see that would, you know, something that would be informative for you, then I would love to make it for you if I think enough people are interested in it, so do that. And then remember, lastly, there's a way to support me, my patreon.com. Just go to patreon.com and look for Mike Marmalade Lawrence, and you can, it's very simple and easy. You can set it up to do as low as $1 a month or $5 or $10 a month. The higher you go, the more you get back from me. I will also do more things for you. Every single dollar goes into a separate account and is going towards gear. I'm getting closer to buying my tent, so you guys are definitely helping out with that. So the people I've had for a while, I appreciate it. So go check it out. Just check it out. I also post videos there before you get them on my regular channel, so you get some benefits of that. Secondly, I have a new merchandise shop that really once again, that's another way for me to save some money towards my gear and for my hike. So please go there, just check it out. I mean, if it's a gift for somebody, I have the new Marmalade logo, so it'll put on multiple colors, multiple kinds of clothing and shirts, things like that. Also, so you just go to Teespring, T-E-E Spring, and then you look for me for Marmalade Outdoors. I'm also going to put links for both the Patreon account and my merch site down below, so just go down there and click on it. That's the easiest way. And if you haven't already, please subscribe, like, share, do all that kind of stuff. And what can I say? Until next time, I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you down the trail.